I was recently talking with a friend who is a dentist. She enlightened me to the fact that all of her reviews on Google and on Yelp all say, wow, what a cool environment. I really felt great going to the dentist. I didn't expect it. I was so scared. She's like, wait a minute. None of this reflected my expertise in dentistry. That's the funny part about it. If we can take the patient's mind off of the fact that they're actually at the dentist and realize that it's not so scary, it sets everybody up for success a bit more.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Raving Patients Podcast. I want to first thank my sponsors, both Dental Intelligence and the Doc Sites, for their continued support, allowing me to come to your inbox every single Friday at 5 a.m. Eastern Time with a new episode. I also want to remind everybody about my event, Supercharge Your Dental Practice, September 26th and 27th, 2025, at Pier 66, back in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Yes, we're bringing it back to Florida after a year in Scottsdale. You can go to superchargeyourdentalpractice.com to learn more. We're getting ready any day now to release the 12 speakers who will be speaking at the event. So stay tuned for those announcements. My guest is Greg Marinelli from DesignWise, and we're going to be talking about why patients will remember the vibe of your office even more than the treatment you provide. We'll be talking about how to create a great dental office design and why great design is expensive, and there's myths and facts related to that as well. So it's all things related to designing a dental office. So Greg Marinelli is an interior architect, visionary, and doer. It is his passion and goal to create incredible dental spaces that not only look great, but help elevate your practice to a new level. He takes great pride in every project, and I have no doubt that as a result of our redesign, his clients will experience tremendous success and growth. DesignWise Interiors is constantly reminded by our clients of the difference their work makes and how it has made in their practice, and how patients can't wait to come back into their offices they design. So please welcome to the Raving Patients Podcast, Greg Marinelli. Greg, thank you so much for joining me today.
Hey, Len, of course. Thanks for having me.
I'm excited to talk about dental office design. So just so you know, and I don't think we touched on this when I first connected with you, but I bought my practice in 2007. I've since retired. But when I bought my practice, I bought the building, and one of the very first things I did, because I bought it from a dentist who committed suicide, was I needed to make the space look completely different than it was. So we gutted the entire building. Literally, one day they came in, they demolished everything, and I worked on half the office while they worked on one half, and I worked on the other half in the new spot when they finished the other half. So I went through an entire office redesign, very, very complicated process. I learned a lot of things during it. So I've experienced this myself. So I'm excited to talk to you about dental office design here and how it can elevate the patient experience. So to begin with, why don't you just kind of expand on your bio, talk about how you help practices, how you got into the space, and what you do for dental practices.
Absolutely. Well, as a dental office designer, I think back that I can't believe it's already been a decade that we're designing dental practices. I remember when I got the phone call to be invited to work for this firm who was designing dental practices, my first question was, oh, people design dental offices? And then I was enlightened from there on. And you know, the funny fact, even a decade later, people ask me what I do. I said, oh, I have a design firm that focuses on designing dental offices. And they say that same thing. Oh, I didn't realize that dental offices were designed. And truthfully, though, I like to joke back with them. I'm like, well, the good ones are. Because there's a lot of level of designs. I mean, we have almost 200,000 dentists in the U.S., and I could walk into 9 out of 10 of those offices and say that, you know what, it's time for a remodel, or it's time for a refresh, or this is what you can do better for the patient experience.
That's great. So talk about how you kind of got into it, because as you just said, dental office design is not really a known, product. I mean, I don't know many firms that do that. I know, look, when you hire like Henry Schein or Benko or one of these companies, they do the dental design work. I didn't know that there's really companies that do the work outside of that. So can you just talk about how you got involved in it and what your expertise is?
Absolutely. Well, one of those that you just mentioned, that's where I got my start. And the goal is really that design supports the sales if you're talking with those big brand names. And it's an amazing system. I loved what I was doing working there. And I realized, though, after a little while, I'm like, man, I think I can do this on my own and even dig into more detail. Because while that it's an amazing service that's offered by those brands, because really what they're doing is they're creating a floor plan that supports the sale of the dental equipment. And then it leads on from there into interior design and the build out. Well, what I'm really bringing to the table is, as an interior architect, someone who understands spatial requirements for a dental office, I'm really partnered up with the referrals that the dentist is talking with even before they think design. For instance, the real estate broker, the dental consultant, because they're prepping our dentist clients. And then when it's time to talk design and they have their space, they can send me those 4 walls. And we start right there by saying, okay, what is it that you envision your practice to look like? There's 2 scenarios here. I guess I'm really focusing on a brand new space. And then we create, much like dentists have a treatment plan, in the design world, we call it a program. Simply, it's like, what is your wish list? What are your wants and needs? What would you like your patients to experience? What would you like your experience to be like? Then on the flip side of that, much like you said, you can buy an existing practice that I can guarantee you will need some work, whether it's a light refresh or just a total gut, knock it all down. Going back to what you mentioned as the overall arching theme of this is that patients focus on the vibe and what their feeling is while in the space. Whether it's a dental office, whether it's a home, whether it's a retail store, everywhere. As humans, ultimately, it's about us and how we feel. But if we can direct that narrative to specific elements, for instance, lighting, sound, the smell even. One of my favorite parts is to walk into one of our new dental practices and it doesn't smell like that typical dental office. It smells like a hotel, for instance.
I talk about patient experience all the time. And I think, everything that a practice does revolves around marketing. And I talk about this a lot. It's the smell. It's how you answer the phone. I mean, does it smell like a dental office or does it smell like a bakery or a flower shop or something like that? So I am a firm believer. I think the space is so important, but it's a very overlooked part of a dental practice is filling the space appropriately.
It is. And, as an interior designer, I'm always up against, here comes the designer. Prices are going up and they're going to bring their ego in. What is really important, though, what we're doing here is ultimately when I created Design-Wise, it was based on the simple fact of we're geared to produce results. And it's results for me as a business, for our dentists as they're on their journey, whether it's a startup journey or an acquisition, or actually we have a bunch of dentists who have multiple locations. It's creating a brand that they can then rinse and repeat as they grow their empire. And with that, there's just so many different avenues that they can go down. I mean, we're in this tiny little niche world. It's funny, even how we met, we have a mutual connection. Everybody seems to know each other. And there's a lot of information out there, especially about design and going back to the importance of it. And it depends on who you talk to. Of course, I'm going to say it's the most important part of the project. The equipment specialist might recognize that it is, but they're going to say their equipment is the most important, right? The realtor is going to say that the great deal that they negotiated is the most important part. And the truth is that it's all important. Truly is.
I think from a patient experience, a lot of it has to do with the vibe the office gives off. So I know you touched on it very briefly already as we were talking, but can you talk about, maybe give an example of how the patients will remember the vibe of the office even more than the treatment you render them? So I think that plays a big role in the patient experience part of everything that we talk about.
Absolutely. I was recently talking with a friend who is a dentist. I actually didn't design her office, but we've become friends since. And she enlightened me to the fact that all of her reviews on Google and on Yelp all say, wow, what a cool environment. Or, wow, I really felt great going to the dentist. I didn't expect it. I was so scared. And she's like, wait a minute. None of this reflected my expertise in dentistry. And that's the funny part about it. If we can take the patient's mind off of the fact that they're actually at the dentist and realize that it's not so scary, it sets everybody up for success a bit more. For instance, walking through the door, I remember being a little kid and walking into the dental office that I went to. It was a general dentist, not a pediatric dental office. And it was that DMV style seating. The CNN news was playing so loud. And I recall that old window sliding open and the person, asking for my insurance information. If you still have a practice like that, I'm just going to say this, shame on you. That's not where we are in 2024 going into 2025. We are in a world that your patient's experience should be number one. And how do we create that? We're creating, instead of waiting rooms, we're creating patient lounges. Instead of business areas that are up front for all the patients to see, we're putting that around the corner and we're bringing a more concierge vibe. You picture what it's like to walk into a Motel 8 versus the Wynn in Las Vegas. Two very different scenarios. And I'm not saying that we're striving for the win. What I'm saying though is they thought about all of the elements from the time you walk through that front door. Speaking of smell, we keep bringing this up. They have a patented smell. And actually my background before dentistry is hospitality design. There was hotels and casino, and we really got to study all that. And that sets the tone because that's what people remember. Again, going back to what did they smell? Are they smelling the Chinese food that was just heated up in the microwave after lunch? In an old practice, probably. But in the new practice, we have strategies as simple as adding an exhaust fan in your team lounge, much like you would have in a bathroom, to get that scent out. But ultimately, it's even infusing a scent into the HVAC system. So that way that scent is all throughout the space.
It's funny, you mentioned about the old office design with chairs that were like the DMV and the sliding glass door. So my wife had to have a medical procedure done last year, and we were referred by the plastic surgeon to this doctor. And we went and I remember I have a Facebook group called Raving Patients, and most people who are listening know about the group, but I posted a picture of the waiting room that I was in when we were in the office there. And I said, what do you think of this office? And it was, I literally had the sliding glass door. It had everything you talked about, and everybody was commenting about it. It looked like a Medicaid clinic. And this was a high end, cosmetic surgeon type person. And he just didn't give that vibe when people walked in. I felt like I was in a DMV, like you said. So he was a great doctor, did great work, but don't get me wrong. The vibe was very different when we first walked in there.
Well, that's the thing. We have all of these amazing doctors who, of course, they want to perform at the best. They want to live out their lifelong dream of being a doctor, and they have that reputation of being great. And then when your patients walk into the space and it doesn't reflect that, well, what a difference it would be if your patients were walking into a space that did reflect your brand. And this is where you might touch it with marketing and whatnot. But it really, though, design starts before the front door. I say it's a culmination of marketing, of how you are presenting yourself on social media, on Google, on Yelp. When patients type in best dentist near me and pictures of your awesome, incredible office come up, that's where that journey starts, because they're like, oh, I can relate to that. Actually, funny enough, I was getting my hair cut a couple months ago, and my hairstylist knows that I design dental offices. And she's like, oh, Gregory, I found this perfect dental office. I was researching for weeks and weeks and weeks, and finally I found it. It was beautiful. This is where I want to go. And she's describing it to me, and I said, wait a minute, is that the Tooth Co. in Irvine? She goes, yes. I said, well, we designed that office. And just right there, it solidified that concept that when people are searching for you online, that's the first touch point. That's what really has to show up. And if your office looks incredible there, and then as that journey moves on through the way they're booking an appointment, when they're pulling in the parking lot and they see that same branding that they saw on your website, your social media, on the building, and then on the front door walking through, and then ultimately in that patient lounge when they're walking in, all of those things are anxiety reducing techniques. Because that's what it ultimately comes down to. People have high anxiety of going to the dentist. It's just a fact. 75% of Americans actually admit to having dental anxiety. And when we are using those visual cues in branding and marketing throughout social and then in the space, that's bringing it down naturally, because patients feel like when they see that branding walking in the front door, okay, I've opened the right door. Something that simple as knowing that they opened the right door lowers that anxiety. Another thing is lighting. If you ever study, going back to hotels, study the lighting there. There's layers and layers and layers of lighting. If you were to walk into a reception area and you had those big, bright ceiling lights like you would in a clinic, well, that's anxiety inducing. However, by specifically specifying a certain temperature of light, size of light, that's naturally even going to bring anxiety down. And then ultimately with the concierge approach, just removing that business-like experience and that bringing in the concierge experience, you have your happiest person sitting at the welcome desk. Couldn't tell you how many dental offices I've walked into and I heard inappropriate conversations from team members that I shouldn't hear waiting, So that's what we're doing. We're reducing all of that stuff. We're learning from the past mistakes and we're learning from how dental offices have been in the past. And we get to recreate that experience.
Interesting. So I'm curious, I'm assuming that you work with more startups than redesign of offices. Is that correct?
It's about 60-40. 60 startups and 40 acquisitions and refreshes. Actually, we're noticing a lot more acquisitions and refreshes. I'm not sure if it's just a time where a lot of dentists are older and selling their practices. They're my favorite. And we just yesterday opened a practice that was a refresh. It's in Beverly Hills. It's a 2-operatory practice, and it needed a lot of love. If it wasn't 25 years old and very outdated, very traditional, we'll call it, it just didn't reflect where the doctor wanted to be. And here's like you mentioned, you had to work out of half of your office, and then half was under construction. That's a lot. That's a lot to do for you, for your team, for your patients. It affects everyone's experience and anxiety levels. What we did with this one that just opened yesterday, he shut down for 4 weeks. His team worked from home, completely gutted the place. We brought in a team of 40 construction workers that worked day and night. And they ripped it apart and put it back together again. I walked through the space yesterday, Len, and when I say I was mesmerized by the transformation, that's big. And what the key to the success is that whether it's a new startup practice, an acquisition, a refresh, a full remodel, our doctor shared his vision and trusted the process. Because jokingly, we say, well, how does your office go from being your dream office to Greg walking in and saying, oh man, this is a little fugly. And there's a lot of things that can happen there, whether it's budget, whether it's a lot of opinions, whether it's, I'm just going to say it, spouses coming in with their opinions. Well, I'm up against that a lot, actually. And there's a lot of different avenues that we can go down through the design journey, And my point is this office in Beverly Hills, the reason why it came out so successful, we implemented all the things we were just talking about. When you walk in, what is that patient experience like? They're walking into a lounge. It's a concierge experience. There's multiple levels of lighting. There's really comfy, cozy seating. And then once you get into the treatment area, it doesn't stop there. We had fun with lighting. We had fun with technology. A really great dental chair is really important, and it's high on my list. We talked a lot about design elements, but I also know a lot about the dental equipment. I've been blessed to be surrounded by those equipment specialists over the years who teach me a lot about that. And I will say, from a 6-foot-tall man that I am, not all dental chairs are created equal. You want your patient to sit in a chair and feel comfortable. But as a bigger guy, I sit in most dental chairs and I'm just sitting on this instead of in this. Does that make sense?
100% makes sense. I'm curious, another concept that came into my head here was because, and you answered part of it was because you had mentioned that you also have some dental equipment experience. So I'm curious, somebody is going to do a startup. At what point in the process should they be reaching out to you to help design the office? Because the startup process is a very long time. There's so many steps involved, but obviously, I'm assuming they have to have the space first. But is that when they immediately reach out to you, is when they have the space they're going to use? Obviously, because you have an experience in dental equipment, you would be almost even before they select the dental equipment, so you can make the space work with the equipment or recommendations on the equipment that you're going to make.
That's exactly right, Len. It's as soon as possible. as soon as you're having thoughts of opening a practice, buying a practice, remodeling your practice, that's when you reach out, because a conversation is where it needs to start. We don't jump right into design. It's not like you have to have all of your ducks in order just to have a conversation with us. And one of our first things is we hop on a vision call. DesignWise is a virtual design studio. I have it set up much like we're talking here. It's a conversation. It's a download of goals and the vision for the space. And then we share how we design and what our process is like. So I'd say have the conversation early as possible. When you are looking for your space, though, that's what's really important, because you might be looking at 3 different spaces. One might be 1,400 square feet. Another one's 1,500. Another one's 1,900. Where we have to look at your goals and say, well, you want 4 treatment rooms. You would love a technology lab, patient lounge, photo studio, private office, your own private restroom. There's all of these things that have to fit together. We think of it like a puzzle under that one roof. What we do is we create test fits. So if you had 3 spaces, we'll do 3 test fits. And that way it gives you an educated approach before you sign your lease, before you're locking yourself in for the next decade or 15 years. And then from that floor plan, as long as you are confident moving forward, that's when we can change things from there. We can expand upon it. I actually laugh a lot because a lot of clients will come to us and say, our design is done. We have a floor plan. And I'm like, no, you're just getting started. That's the first step, truthfully. It's like the foundation of building a house. The foundation is up, but that doesn't mean the house is completed. Right? There's so many more steps in going through that process.
Makes sense. So everybody's listening, or people that are listening says, wow, I'm going to start up. I can really use some help with the design. Can you talk about cost? Because a lot of people think, as you said, I think very in the beginning, you said, oh, you're going to bring a designer in here. The costs are going to skyrocket. So can you talk about cost involved and then some myths and facts when it comes to designing a dental practice?
Well, it's going to be very, very expensive. And if you don't agree with me, then it's going to be a really bad experience. That's what everybody thinks. And truthfully, from the bottom of my heart, I'm in this to win this for our clients. And I might have a little bit of an ego, but mostly what I have is experience and strategy in how to create a space and start from that first conversation to the moment the doors are opening for you, because there's a lot of stuff that happens there. What that looks like is cost-wise, first of all. We have 3 different design packages. We have silver, gold, and platinum currently. Silver is perfect for a remodel because every remodel is very different. What we'll do is we'll hop on a call. If it's local here in SoCal, I can jump in the car and I'll do a site visit, check it out. If it's nationwide, I've been known to fly across the country to check out a space. So that's our silver level package. Gold level package is ideal for startups. This is that scenario we were just talking about. You have a brand new space planning. We plan out that puzzle. And then we get into interior design, selecting all of those finishes and creating, this is the coolest part, Lynn, photorealistic renderings. And for anyone following designwise.co on Instagram, I love to post the befores, the durings, the renderings, and the after, because this technology that we're using for photorealistic renderings blows my mind. And what it really does is allows allows our clients, our dental clients, to see what their space is going to look like months and months and months in advance. And that way, the whole design process can go quicker, because what everyone is going to learn, once you sign that lease or buy that property, everything is going to have to happen very quickly. There's deadlines you have to meet. There's goals. There's city permits. There's construction schedules. And we need to get through the design process as quick as possible. The system that I set up, I call it the 8-step design process, is meant to walk our clients through this journey step by step by step so they know what they should be doing now. We associate a timeline with that step, and they know what is next and how crucial it is to keep moving forward. My point of that is those photorealistic renderings help to move the design process along quicker, because our clients could look at it and say, yes, I love it, Or they can look at it and say, you know what, Greg, I like it. What if we change this, this, and this? So we'll go back, we'll do a revision. And then they say, okay, great. Now I'm happy. Now we can move forward into construction.
What about some other, I guess you can say, false understanding about design work? Can you add some flavor to that?
Indeed. Let's talk about cost, first of all. I know we talked about packages and offerings, but let's talk about cost. The one thing I hear, it's going to be super expensive. Working with a designer is going to double the budget, and it's going to cause delays. It might be true in some cases, truly is. That's not our goal, though. Our goal is to break that process down right from the beginning. So our client says, I have a $300,000 budget, Greg, or a $500,000 budget, an $800,000 budget. That's what we're going to design towards. Because if you have a $300,000 budget and I'm coming in with an $800,000 design, that's not setting us up for success. So the goal is being very upfront, very transparent, building your team up front. I'd love to have conversations with contractors right up front, the real estate broker, consultants, making sure that we're all telling the same story, because that way, when we're all informed, it sets the project up for success. But some things that can go wrong. This is funny. Clients often come to us with a lot of Pinterest boards. Pinterest is really big for sharing inspiration. And they come to us with $1 million practice looks and that $300,000 budget.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, okay, I'm good, but I'm not sure if I'm a magician here. However, I'm going to go back to this Beverly Hills office that is open. Actually, today is the first day seeing patients. He did have that $1 million look, and he had a budget that was a lot more cost effective. I'm not going to share that because it's personal information, but it was a lot lower than $1 million. How do we do that though? Because I come up against this a lot. The construction team, the architectural process with getting permits, whether they're needed or not needed, and the cost of goods and materials. Those three things have such variations. I can create an office, give it to 3 different contractors, and they come in at 3 different price ranges. It happens all the time. You have your low, middle, and your high. And you think, well, they're all promising to get the same end result. They all looked at the instruction manual or the blueprints. They were all basing it off the same information that was provided by DesignWise as what type of floor I want and cabinetry and counters and ceiling design and lighting. So what would be the fluctuation? Well, I realized that the higher priced contractors typically come with more experience. Their workmanship is excellent. They have amazing project management teams. And when they promise a timeline and a deadline, they're hitting those. You're paying for that service. The design will look exactly like intended. For example, on this current office that I keep referencing, we specifically looked for a contractor who was budget friendly. Doctor actually had a lot of ins in the local network when it comes to countertops and stone and flooring. So we were able to get discounts there. And as far as furniture goes, same thing, shopping around, making sure that everything was most cost effective. So that's what we more so lean towards, Len. And that's how we keep creating these incredible dental offices, because it's whatever is right for the patient. Or I keep saying patient, sorry. Whatever's right for the client. It's the materials, it's the overall design aesthetic, it's the team. You know, if you are someone who says, I have no time to manage anything, you're going to want to hire that better contractor with the project management team. If you're someone who says, I understand construction, I have the time, I'm going to have a month off during this because I'm closing my office, I'm not going to be seeing patients, and you can spearhead project management and being there every day, then it's okay to go with that lower cost contractor that might not have the best project management. The good thing is, with experience that I have working with that person, I knew that the end result would be incredible. So do you see how there's variations there? Same exact design, same exact materials. One contractor came in $300, one would come in at $800. And that's a wild gap, but it's the truth.
Got it. No, that sounds really good. So, real quick, is there anything else that we haven't discussed yet that you wanted to touch base on as our time is cutting short, and I want to get to the lightning round Q&A because that's a popular part of the
baby,
podcast.
I can't wait. I'm a little nervous for the lightning round. I'd say overall, Len, DesignWise was created on the simple principle of reducing anxiety for everyone involved while creating incredible results. And it's simply that. And if that sounds like something that anyone is interested in talking about, I suggest going on our website or social media, scheduling a vision call, and let's chat about it. It's simply that. We're in this to win this, and it's simply that. And we're just getting started with dental. There's other markets, medical, plastic surgery, aesthetics, so much opportunity, because what I truly believe is that an end user, a patient, a client, they all deserve incredible spaces and a great experience.
That's great. So let's switch to lightning round questions here. So first question, how did you get credibility so quickly in the industry?
I have a network of referral sources that has had my back for many, many years. And every day I wake up and I show gratitude for them. And I really count my blessings. Being in this a decade, I'll tell you right off the bat, it wasn't easy getting started as a design firm. I was doing all types of design. Well, I met this contractor who was dental specific, and he said, you are onto something. I promise you, if you create a firm that is dental specific, we'll send you all the referrals. And it was as simple as that. I've just been blessed with knowing the right people.
Got it. When you were a kid, what was the first thing you wanted to be when you grew up?
An architect.
Oh, there you go. That's good.
I remember being a little kid and I'd be driving in the car with my parents. I was in the back seat and I'd see houses and I'd go home and I'd start sketching them.
Got it. What is your favorite aspect of being an entrepreneur?
The freedom to do whatever the heck I want, whenever I want. Specifically vacation. I love vacationing.
That's good. What book do you want to go back and reread as it's made a great impact on you the first time?
I'm not a big reader. However, the one book that I read right before I created the DesignWise brand was called The Miracle Morning, and it changed my world.
Okay. What are 3 adjectives that describe your strengths?
Determined, positive, and flexible.
Okay.
I don't know if I've ever described myself like that before. They just came out.
What is one tactic you use to stay organized? Trello
and software that keeps everything out of my head and in the digital world.
Okay. If you had one piece of advice to someone just starting out, what would it be?
Build a team around you that you trust, because it's a long journey. And as a dentist or a medical professional, we love when we work with people who are highly involved in the process, but you're not an expert. And I think you have to know that. You have to surround yourself with the experts to guide you on the journey.
Got it. Do you have a favorite business podcast?
I'm going to have to say yours. And I'm not just saying that.
All right. Hey, a lot of people say that. I'm glad. I'm glad that you like my podcast. How do you define the word success?
Success to me is being able to create. I reflect on that word a lot, actually. And it's just being able to create. I'm a natural creator since I was a little guy. And it took me a while to figure out how that was and how to express that. And I just feel like I am on a mission now and the momentum is growing, and just keep creating. Okay.
2 more questions. This one's tough. If you had to open up a lemonade stand tomorrow, what would you call the lemonade stand?
The only thing that came up was dirty. I can't say that. I can't bring myself to say that. I'm just going to say squeeze those lemons. I don't know.
Hey, it's a tough question, like I said. And last one, and this could be either business or personal. If you had one subscription that you could not live without, what would it be?
Netflix.
Very common choice. Got it.
Yeah.
So Greg, how can people reach out to you to learn more about your services that you provide?
Of course, on the web, it's designwise.co, and that's where you can schedule a vision call. If you're interested in learning more about our services, we'd love to hear from you there. And then the best source is Instagram and Facebook, and they're both at designwise.co. That's where you're going to see all the action happening on a daily basis. We're posting befores and afters and all the journeys of our clients there.
And I am, as we're talking, I am going right on there and checking out some of these designs because I am very intrigued by the things that you do. So guys, if you are thinking about designing an office, you're a startup practice, and you need to design an office, definitely reach out to Greg. He was very impressive on this podcast. His before and afters are amazing as I'm looking at them right now. But reach out to him. He gave you his contact information. If you like the episode, please share it. Please review us. Please promote it. I would really appreciate it. Remember about Supercharge Your Dental Practice, September 26th and 27th, 2025 in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And as I end every single one of my podcasts, remember, your reputation matters. Until the next episode, Greg, thank you so much for joining me today, and we'll talk to everyone soon.
You're welcome. See you guys.